Clean Tech Hub podcast. I'm Lisa McNabb. I'm coming to you from the Collider studio at Innovation Saskatchewan's Collider co-working space. I love it here. If you haven't seen this space before, definitely check out my last video on a mini tour of the space. Let's save the world. That's why I'm here. This is the first episode of my podcast series on clean technologies in Saskatchewan and around the world. I have created the Clean Tech Hub to make clean technologies more accessible for governments, First Nations, businesses, and general public to be able to access and be able to roll out these clean technologies on a much faster and easier scale than ever before. This is an 8-part episode podcast series on clean technologies. And this first one, I want to deep dive into what are the biggest problems in the world and how could we even go about solving them. Saving the world is a very loaded statement, of course. Who do you save? How do you save them? Who's going to pay for it? And so on. First of all, let's look at what are some of the biggest problems, from wars to poverty to pollution, starvation, lack of clean water, lack of quality work, lack of decent pay or a living wage, house fires, floods, mold, pest, mildew. There's endless amounts of problems, but I figure that we could put them into 3 main categories. Number 1 being poor well-being, which includes poverty, which includes war, which includes all the plethora of just not being able to feel safe, have a decent life. Next would be homelessness or poor quality of where you live, poor housing. And the third one being excessive pollution, especially plastic pollution. So let's deep dive into some of these, the data and statistics that go along with these. In Saskatoon in 2024, it was recorded that 1,499 people were homeless. In Canada, annually, there's about 235,000 people that are homeless. That's almost the same population as Saskatoon. I think we're at about 280,000 people. So maybe that's the population of Regina is homeless in Canada annually. In the US, of course, they have a much bigger population than we do here in Canada. They're at 771,480 homeless people on any given night. That's massive. That's huge number. It's almost unfathomable. It's so heartbreaking to see these statistics, especially that 20 people roughly die per day in the US because of homelessness. It could be a fire. It could be, self-harm. It could be other people harming them. It could be accidents. Around the world, 150 million people are homeless. That's such a massive number. It's staggering. That's an epidemic. That's an epidemic level of homelessness. Now, moving on to fires. There are more fires in the world than from what I've seen is ever in history. There's 8,000 forest fires annually in Canada that was recorded, and house and building fires. There's about an average of 30 fires a day in Canada, 24,000 house fires every year in Canada. This is a staggering number as well. 3,800 fires per day in the US. There's one fire reported every 23 seconds and one house structure fire every 95 seconds in the US. So for floods, 170 major floods were reported worldwide, affecting 32 million people with over $85 billion in economic losses. From mold and mildew, at least 47 or 50% of homes in the US and Canada have mold growing in them. Black mold is one of the most toxic, carcinogenic types of molds. It is extremely dangerous to young children and seniors. It's not good for the body at all, obviously. And it's in one out of every 2 houses has it. Garbage waste pollution. This is something I talk about a lot, especially with Regen Replica, with Wave of the Future, with VDQ, NRG. Pollution is at an excessive amount, especially plastic waste pollution. If you think of recycling, we all recycle, right? How much does that actually take care of in our waste? I'm going to deep dive into that a bit further in my next episode, but in Canada, we actually make about 6 pounds a day of waste. That is the most per person per capita in the world. Our country obviously doesn't have the same population as the US or India or Mexico or China. So we don't technically make the most amount of waste in the world, but per person per capita, we make the most. Americans are about at 4.5 pounds a day. Here in Saskatchewan, we make about 5 pounds a day of waste. And I think it comes down to our weather and the way that we live. We move around a lot. We have extreme cold, extreme heat. We have lots of big trucks, big equipment. There's a lot of turnover in that waste, and there's excessive amounts of packaging because we have to ship things so far, such long distances, and you need it packaged really well. And we're so used to also throwing things out. Oh, it's broken. I'll just buy a new one. It's so cheap. It's on Amazon. It's going to come tomorrow. It's the way that we live. It's ingrained in us to do that at this point. And then we've also been programmed to recycle, reuse, reduce. We know that so well. And how much is actually getting recycled? I definitely want you to post in the comments what percentage of the recycling bin actually gets recycled. Now in 2019, it used to only be 9%. Now the new statistic in 2024 is 16%. Only 16% of what you put into the recycling bin actually gets recycled. When I first heard that statistic, I was like, what? Doesn't everything get recycled in the recycling bin? That's why it's a recycling bin. That's why you put it in there, right? But no, that's not true. And again, I'll deep dive into that more in my next episode here. Landfill waste is approximately 2.8 million tons of plastic waste that ends up in Canadian landfills annually. That waste could actually be repurposed into many other different types of things, like building materials, like what Regen Replica is doing. It can go in, become bio oils or new types of petroleum, like what VDQ does. And you can make carbon black, graphene. You can make so many different things from plastic waste. And what we're doing with it currently, the majority of it right now, it's going right into our landfills to sit in there forever. It will never break down in our lifetimes or our children's lifetimes as well. So we might as well do something with it. Greenhouse gas emissions, they're off the charts, especially the biggest 5 emitters in Canada: Alberta, Ontario, Quebec, Saskatchewan, and BC. Those together create 92% of the total national gas emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, of course. And that's directly from Canada Climate Change Services as well, too. Saskatchewan, we still burn coal here. And they got rid of the solar panel reimbursement program here. Unfortunately, Saskatchewan's taken some step backs in clean energy and clean technologies. And it could be due to some of the Crown Corps here, but also, we got to keep ourselves alive. How do we move forward? And I believe the key to that is implementing more clean technologies. Doesn't mean clean technologies has to replace everything that's here, but by giving more options, we can alleviate many of these huge problems. I'm going to deep dive into more clean technology solutions, and stay tuned for more. Feel free to subscribe and stay connected with me on LinkedIn, Lisa McNabb. Search me and connect with me on there. If you want to learn more and get a deep dive into clean technologies on a personal level, definitely book a discovery meeting with me through my LinkedIn. And you can also book a tour of Wave of the Future 3D through that link as well. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. I will see you on the next video.